My question for you for this video is, of course, which films beginning with E would make your top 5 list? Let me know in the comments. Picking films that began with E was not a massive job. I think I found some pretty great ones that I kind of remember loving and watching. Some I've seen several times. We'll start with just a few honorary mentions, but not too many. So we have Everything Must Go, which I think is massively underrated and I've mentioned a few times. An Education, which is beautiful, quintessential English, kind of middle class society, lovely film. ExistenZ, which I saw recently and fell in love with. I think I'll be talking about that in like a movie recommendations video at some point soon, so more on it then. And Elf, which is my favourite Christmas film, and it very, very nearly made this list, but just not quite. I tried so hard to not litter this with Tim Burton films. We're going to run out of Tim Burton films eventually, so eventually we'll get to a letter where there's no Tim Burton film, but here we have 2, and in no order is Edward Scissorhands. Needs no introduction really. Johnny Depp's amazing, Winona Ryder's amazing, it's magical, it's mythical, it's hilarious, it's emotional, it's everything that Tim Burton is, and it's perfect. Then we have one that I think is massively underrated in terms of Tim Burton's work, and that is Ed Wood. Johnny Depp plays Ed Wood, who was hailed as one of the worst directors of all time. And we have some amazing kind of really B-movie horror creations going on in here, and it's a lot of fun. But when we look at like Glenn or Glenda and his development as a person as well as an artist, and this relationship with Bela Lugosi, it's a beautiful narrative, but it's very emotional. It's great if you like films about old Hollywood. Burton's biopics, this and Big Eyes, massively underrated. If you haven't seen that, please do watch it. I would love to know what you think of it. Elephant Man, honestly an incredible film. I really like Anthony Hopkins in this. You know, I think the way they've done John Merrick as a character is really well done. I'm not an expert on The Elephant Man, but from what I knew when I went into this, I think it met my own expectations, maybe even exceeded them in part. And for me, I was very happy with how the narrative progressed and how they treated the character of the Elephant Man. I've changed my mind. I was going to mention another film, but I'm actually going to not do that. I'm going to put Elf in this list, I've decided, because whenever I even just hear the word elf, I want to try spaghetti bolognese with maple syrup. That's how infectious that film is. It's brilliant. I've decided Elf is going in this list. My first look at David Lynch, it's Eraserhead. This film is not a very long film, it's not a very intense narrative. Messes with the mind a bit, and normally I don't like that. I love films that mess with the mind, but not films that don't have a strong, solid narrative, beginning, middle, end. This is kind of the antithesis of that, and yet I love it. Mainly because of the alien baby with all of the goo coming out of it. I love that scene so much. But I just really like it, and it really kind of got me into David Lynch as a director. I've since then read his autobiography, and I'm really fascinated by his work. Blue Velvet is amazing. But it's all because of this, and I love it. And it does have one of my favourite scenes in cinema history, with the baby and the goo, and I love it, and it's great. But definitely, if you're not familiar with Lynch's work, I personally would say start with Eraserhead. Those are my favourites. I do very much look forward to hearing which films beginning with E would make your own top 5 list.